4, 3, 2, 1. It's an honor to have you here, man.
It's an honor to be here, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. When you said yeah, I truly couldn't even believe it, but I just want to be able to get these people to understand who you are, bro, because I think what you're about to say is really important. So we got to make sure we treat you the right way and name your accolades. So this guy right here, his name is Gilbert Melendez. My guy's a member of Skrap Pack. He had Fighter of the Year in the UFC. He has been part of a few nationally televised events, and he's just a GOAT, man. I really appreciate what you're doing for the Bay Area because you're a real pioneer and you really care. And that's really what I want to talk to you about, bro. It's like, where does that care for what, building the MMA back in the Bay Area feel like?
Yeah, man, I'm really want to have an impact on the next generation and the community, and Bay Area mixed martial arts has been strong for so many years. I came out of here, had some great fights with Josh Thompson, Cain Velasquez, Luke Rockhold, Nate Diaz, Jake Shields, Dave Terrell.
Legends.
I mean, yeah, bunch of legends. The list goes on. I can go here all day. Kung Lee, Frank Shamrock, a lot of people.
OGs.
A lot of OGs came from here. But Strikeforce got bought out by the UFC, and they bought my contract as well. And Bay Area mixed martial arts kind of went down a little bit because there wasn't a great ecosystem, So during the pandemic, I was ready to throw in the towel. Like, man, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to move back to SoCal, or I don't know what I wanted to do. I almost gave up. I was very discouraged. But then I just got back in the fight. And I was like, you know what, man? I'm going to sign a lease. I'm going to build my gym back up. Started investing in some fighters, and they became really good. And then I was like, man, these fighters need fights. There's no fights in the area. So I was like, I got to start a fight show. And I was in pursuit of that. And my old promoter, Scott Coker, who is one of the best promoters in combat sports history.
That's a Bellator
Bellator president out there and running stuff there, and built that company up. And he built Strikeforce as well. So he's built those two organizations up. So I've teamed up with him now, and our goal is to revive Bay Area mixed martial arts. That's my new mission. And trying to have impact with my immediate community. My fighters. My friends, my family. The Bay Area, even against gyms that I might fight, but I still want to provide for them. And I do some commentating for LFA, so I even reach the next generations of fighters all over the world. So it's fun to have an impact, stay in the sport. It's fun for me, and that's my new mission now, man. I want to stay in the sport, I want to be in it, but I want to give back to the next generation.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man, because, I think we just need a system, because I heard you say before in one of your interviews, you're like, man, like, there's so many people that are talented in the Bay Area, they just don't have that ecosystem. So I'm excited just to see what you're able to build. When's the next one coming? It's in December, isn't it?
Yeah, May 17th.
Oh,
actually.
May
17th. You guys got to come check it out, man. Yeah, get you guys some press passes. You know what I mean? Come press passes, come cover it, talk about it.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah, we got a good lineup. We got Lake G versus Bobby Cerronio. Bobby Cerronio actually trains out of Vallejo. He's from Vallejo.
Okay.
They have their gym. It's Triumph out here. And he's Hawaiian. I think Hawaiian roots, and they have that Hawaiian Kempo. And, they have that old school style, and they're bringing it to the cage out here. Well, we actually fight in the ring, to be honest. But May 17th is our next show, and that's our featured fight. I got some of my Skrap Pack fighters. Jessie Jess, who used to fight in the UFC. She's going to do Muay Thai in there. And we got some pretty big announcements. We might have another big name fighting on our card. I can't say it now, but there might surprise some people, So we're trying to have an impact here.
So your next event is going to be an MMA and Muay Thai card?
Yes.
So you're kind of copying, not copying, but taking heed of ones.
Yeah, ONE FC does that, and I'm a martial artist, so let me backtrack for Scott Coker. So I'm OG. We talked about that, right? So I moved out here in the year 2000, but in 2006, I believe, was the first legal MMA fight in California. It wasn't legal. So prior to that, in 2003, there was a lot of Muay Thai happening. Thais from Thailand came over here. Fairtex was a big brand.
Yeah.
And Scott Coker was promoting kickboxing shows on ESPN. So also, fast forward, I started fighting, and I was fighting in Japan, and we'd fight in the ring. So I fought in Pride, I fought in Shudo, and I'm a big fan of the ring. I think it increases the action. There's actually a square so you can corner someone, not this big old cage where people could run, just a lot more action. So He's a big fan of Muay Thai. I've been a big fan of MMA. He's a big fan of everything. We're trying to put it together. But yes, ONE FC has done that. You know, I'd actually like to add boxing. I'd like to add maybe some wrestling, some jiu-jitsu, just all the martial arts, you know. You know, MMA kind of overshadowed Muay Thai for a while, but now it's resurging now, and it's getting popular again. And,
it really is, yeah, especially here in the Bay.
Yes, here in the Bay, man. There's some really talented people, and some of those ONE FC fights are brutal. MMA, Muay Thai with the MMA gloves is sick. You know what I mean? It's awesome to see, and it's just a different animal right there. So, yeah, May 17th, we got a really good lineup. We do at the TexU Arena in San Jose,
right,
where the Barracudas play, the minor league team for the Sharks. And it's a beautiful arena. Yeah. It's a great platform for the fighters to fight. It feels like the top of the top, but it's just the Bay Area's best, and it's a great time, man. I hope you guys come, and I hope all the listeners come support.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think your Bay Area roots is really important, right? Because I think, like, for example, we have shout out Oakland Roots. They're starting to build something in Oakland, but I think it's really important when the person who's building it is from that place. Because it's not fake. It's like real love, you know. And you may not necessarily, because you were born in Santa Ana, right?
That's right.
But I would argue you kind of sort of built your life over here.
For sure, man. That's the truth.
So you're one of us.
I'm one of you guys. I got my card. You said it, bro. I'm in,
no,
man. I'm in,
bro.
Man, you know, it's been over like half my life here, right?
Right.
I moved here when I was 18.
You met your wife here, all that stuff, man.
Absolutely, man. So this is where I built my roots. It really is. This is where my foundation is. So it would be hard to just get up and relocate and do that. Learned a lot from Santa Ana, a great neighborhood, a lot of good wrestling out there. Still got my family, go see them and everything. But the Bay Area is my home, and a lot of people think I just am Bay, and I do represent Bay, and I represent Cali as well. Very proud of Santa Ana and all that, but I love the Bay Area accepting me and as a local now and everything, and it's important for me because I love the Bay. I love it out here. I love the culture here. I just love the people. I love the personalities, and there's no knock on SoCal and everything. These are my people now.
Yeah.
You definitely give me Bay Area vibes, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go. That's a compliment. No disrespect to SoCal, but it's different over here.
I feel that.
Yeah. My guy right here, he went to SF State too, so he's an alumni himself.
All right.
Yeah. So shout out SF State, man. So, how old were you when you got into Strikeforce?
Yeah. So let's see, man. Good question. I was fighting in. I was like 9 fights in my career, right? Like, I can't even tell you the years and how old I was. Maybe 24, 25, 26, around that time. But when Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin were fighting in the first Ultimate Fighter finale, I was already like 9-0 and fighting in Japan, you know? And that was like the big step for MMA. Like, no one knew what MMA was. I was trying to convince like girls at the bar, like, yeah, I do this MMA, like, you box or whatever. And then overnight, like, after that fight, everyone was an MMA fighter. And they were like, I was like, I fight MMA. Like, oh my God, everyone's an MMA fighter. I was like, But anyways, that was like my era. Like, I can't even go back and tell you dates, but I can kind of compare. But I was fighting in Japan, in Shuto. And I was, I don't know how old, maybe 25, 26 around that time. And then I signed a deal with Strikeforce and fought Harris Sarmiento, and Clay Guida was my Strikeforce championship fight, and that was probably in 2009. I don't know, do the math. I don't know, 18 plus, probably 27 or something like that when that happened.
I think 26. It was 2009 from what I've seen looking at your record.
There
I think
it is.
Was 2009.
I think 2009 when I fought Clay Guida for that. So maybe I was on 27 at that time. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun to fight Clay Guida. He was a tough dude. We had a good scrap out there, and I remember him afterwards, like, I whooped him, but like, we were tired, but he was like doing push-ups afterwards. Like, this guy's an asshole, but he's awesome though. Clay Guida.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
So when did you meet the Gracies?
Yeah.
And then I really want to understand the culture in that gym and why they produce so many great men.
Yep. So when I came here to SF State, I was 18. I had 1 year of wrestling, and it was a great team, but it wasn't like when I was in Santa Ana, like the high school wrestling team, like we were boys, we were homies, really? We were like familia over there, like we went to war together, and like I still got brothers, and like we're still cool because of that. I went to SF State, and there was a bunch of cool guys, but like that synergy wasn't there. Our leader, our coach wasn't quite the coach, rest in peace, Lars Jensen, but it just wasn't, what I liked. And then my second year there, Jake Shields joined the wrestling team. He transferred from Cuesta. And Jake was like, actually he's like, hey, you know, you hang out and you go party. I was like, hell yeah, let's go party. So we took me out partying and stuff, and then we had a good time. I took him out at SF State and we clicked. And then he's like, oh, I do this MMA stuff. And I was like, no, you don't. I was like, I've seen every UFC and you don't do it. And then he proceeded to whoop my ass. You know, we started grappling and everything, and he beat me up. And I was like, where are you training at? And he's like, I train at Caesar Gracies. And I'm, you know, and he's like, I've had fights. And he put it in, we had VHS back then. So he threw a VHS in, and he had tapes of him fighting. And I was like, I thought it was amazing.
Damn.
And I
how far back were those tapes?
man, I mean, there was like, he like fought like 6 months before, 2 months, like he was like fighting already while in school. And he was maybe like 23 at the time, maybe 22 when I met him.
Okay.
And I was like 19, 20 or something like that. Cause I had my first 2 fights when I was 20. So I met him when I was 19. And he like kind of whipped me up and was like, I trained at Caesar Gracies. So he took me to Caesar's, and I was like, I don't got no money. I can't pay. He's like, don't worry, I got this.
That's
and,
in San Francisco too, that gym, right?
no, Caesar's is in Pleasant Hill, Concord.
Oh,
is that no, Pleasant Hill, Concord area, right?
Yeah, I think it's
pretty
right
close.
Yeah.
So he's like, so I walked in there, and he's like, hey, Caesar Gracie's there. And he's like, yeah. He's like, this guy's, he's going to fight. I was like, what the hell? He's like, all right, you can go in for free. So he let me in for free, and you know, and I got the opportunity to train with a lot of great guys, and I just vibed out with everybody. We just, you know, scrapped all day, grappled, and he threw me in sparring on day one, and I just loved it, man, because, you know, I feel like I wrestled because I like the one-on-one competition, and like I love that it was almost a fight, you know, and I brought the fight to the mats in wrestling, even when I was in high school. Some guys would get mad because I like back, you know, headbutt. Like I brought the fight to the mats, and some guys didn't bring that to the mats. They finessed it, and, you know, they didn't want the headbutts, but like that's kind of my style, you know, and I was always rough like that. So, you know, I went to Caesar Gracie's out there, and, you know, Jake took me there, and, you know, and Nick was there as well. And then, you know, he brought Nate in there, and then we just started vibing out there. I remember, you know, I knew from the beginning, like Nick and Jake knew they wanted to be world champions. Like I didn't know I wanted to fight, and neither did Nate really, you know, but we were like their boys. Obviously that's his brother, but, you know, they put us together, and, you know, go against each other. And anyways, you know, 20 years later, thousands of rounds against each other. But I think why we were so successful is Caesar opened the doors and allowed all kinds of dimensions in there: wrestling, Russian sambo, jiu-jitsu. And a lot of the culture at the beginning was like, you could only do these techniques, and like, oh, maybe they want a little bit more control. And he was very open about letting people in.
Freestyling.
Yeah, exactly. And just really developing on there. And because he had those doors open, you know, anyone who had the guts came in there, and, you know, we built a real solid team. And you know, and I don't know, man. I think I credit the fight God for bringing us all together, because we all had the same values, you know, hard work, you know, great discipline and loyalty. And I don't think many people could spar as hard as we did with each other and just like high five afterwards and just be cool about it. You know, a lot of guys spar hard and they get mad, they throw their gloves. It's just like it don't work. But for whatever reason, like, they just like, no one was really a bitch about it. You know, we just kind of got down, and, you know, we all backed each other up. I had a Ford Tempo. Nate had a Ford Taurus. Like we came from the bottom up together, you know, and it was fun to just go on that ride together. So I don't know how, man, but we just had those same values, and we're just really lucky to, you know, get together. And then we spread that out. Everyone saw how we rolled, and it just kind of spread out. And now we have a giant army.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So basically, your career kind of you started wrestling in Santa Ana,
correct,
for your high school team, and then right after that, you got recruited to San Francisco State,
yes,
to do wrestling.
Yep.
Your record, like, you started fighting in Japan not too long after that.
Heck yeah.
So how did you go from like wrestling SF State to like a year or two later you're fighting in Japan?
Yeah, so once I did the jiu-jitsu and I started going into that Gracie fighter gym, I was like, this is where I want to be. You know, like growing up, like I never had a problem going to the gym. I could wake up 6 a.m. Like even to this day, I love training. Like you don't have to convince me to go. And, you know, so I just found that community there. And within like a year of training, I was like, I want to fight, you know, I want to do, this is what I was born to do. You know, like you can't, in wrestling, you can get pinned and then the match is over. But like I would excel in wrestling because now we just wrestle all day. take me down, pin me, take me, but like who would last, right? Like this guy might be beating me out the first 7 minutes or something, but 8 minutes comes up, 9 minutes comes up, they start getting tired, and then I start, okay, here now I'm getting you, So wrestling, you don't go that long, So athleticism and technique goes right there, but fighting was like, you can keep pushing on there. So anyways, I was just in there, and then I had an opportunity. I wanted to fight. I was like 9 months in, a year in. I had 2 fights in one night. Then I fought again, WEC, fought another time WEC. And
WEC, so you're already professional.
Yeah, I had my first I had 2 fights in one night as amateur considered. Then I took my first professional WEC fight.
Interesting.
I jumped in. The sport was younger back then too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as deep. So I fought in the WEC. I fought on the same card as Frank Shamrock a second time. And then I got a call to fight in Hawaii. Well, Hawaii was it against Stephen Bozo Pauling. And they brought me there to lose. And it was he was like ranked number 3 in the world at the time, or number 2 at the time. And he didn't train hard for me, but I showed up and I just wanted a free trip to Hawaii. I said, I'm already a winner. I got a free trip to Hawaii. Come on, Jake, let's go. So I went to Hawaii, and it was crazy. You walk into Hawaii and they're doing all Hawaiian calls in the cage. You just hear everyone. It was like tribal out there, and they wanted to jack me up. But I ended up winning, and I spoiled it for him, and all of a sudden I was on the radar around the world because I beat like a significant guy, Stephen Bozo Pauling.
Top 3, you said, right?
Yeah, he was top 3 out there. He just had a big win in Japan, and I was on the radar and went back to WC, won a championship, flew to Japan, started fighting Shudo, and as soon as I beat Stephen Bozo Pauling, like my phone started ringing and challenges kept coming, and I kept just being an underdog and spoiling, whoever I was fighting,
So do you feel like, even though MMA was small at the time, do you feel that fight in Hawaii like completely changed your life, or was it was not to that point yet?
Yeah, I think like I knew what I wanted to do. Like I didn't know I wanted like I knew Jake wanted to be a world champ. Like I just wanted to like take it day at a time. Like I'm like, man, if I do this and I can get 10 grand a fight, I can go travel the world and I could just enjoy my life, So like I kind of just took it a day at a time, but yeah, that was big for me. I was like, wow, I've won this fight. I got $1,000. Let's extend our flights. Let's hang out here. I could pay my rent, and I can keep doing this. This sounds like a good deal for a while. I can go travel the world and train, and this is fun.
1,000 went a long way back then.
It did, man. It did. And I was like, that's half my rent. Dude, I even blew half of it there. Yeah, still had a job and everything, but it did. That's how it was back then.
Was that weird having a job and then also doing all of that?
No, I mean, it's just kind of like our sport. Unfortunately, there's like top level fighters still doing that. Like they're in the UFC, they're like on the cusp, and they still have to do that. It's brutal, It's brutal that we don't really get that top level training. You see like the football teams, they get
college.
Yeah, even college, they get like the best training rooms. They get massages every day, and like we got guys that are working hard, but they're tougher than anyone here because of that. Like those guys are the savages. They worked out in the morning. They went to go become a plumber and did some construction till 4 o'clock. They come back and they train. You're like, this guy's gonna do it, and you just kind of, you do it till you don't have to, right? School, work, fighting, and then work and fighting, and then finally you're like, all right, I'm just gonna fight, live check to check, and just go for it, and thank God it worked out,
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. And that's all just a part of the journey.
It's a part of the journey, man. It definitely was.
I respect it though, 100%, man.
No problem. We here.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I gotta work on clearing out the memory cards.
No, to circle back around,
yeah,
we were talking about, okay, so you had your couple fights in WEC.
Yeah.
Then you had that fight in Hawaii.
Yeah.
After that, did you go straight to the Pride, or did you have like another fight in Japan that wasn't Pride?
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, I went to Hawaii and I won, and then I came back and I won the WEC Championship, and then I got a call after that, like 3 weeks later, to go fight Shudo Japan against a guy that just beat Bozo Pauling in Japan in this organization called Shudo.
Right.
And
okay, that's
Shudo back in the day was in a ring, and lightweights weren't a thing in MMA. Like I don't think even UFC had a 155-pound division, or they got rid of it for a while. So the guys that were 145ers, 170ers, there was Shudo, Pancrase, and Pride had 205 pounders and up at that time. Just 205ers and heavyweight. I think that's what it was back in the day. So I went to Shudo, and then that started my Japan thing. I got popular in Japan because I went to Japan to go lose, and I won. Beat the guy.
Everybody was underdog.
Yeah, you go there to lose, and I won. So then they brought me back again to fight another Japanese guy, and I whooped him too. And then I fought Rumino Sato afterwards, who was like this legend. He was doing flying arm bars and leg locks before everyone. And then I beat him as well. And then I got my momentum out there, came back, fought Strikeforce, won the championship, and then they called me to go to Pride.
Oh, so you fought Strikeforce before you got into Pride?
That's correct.
Oh, that's crazy. Was there ever a point in time where you were living in Japan?
No, never a point in time. I was like there for 7 days at a time. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And but I've been there like 7 or 8 times. It's a beautiful country.
Yeah,
beautiful country, great people. You know, like fun experience. They're ahead of us, right? Like they're ahead of us. Like
technology.
There it is. The technology. Like back, I was like training, and I was like, are they recording us? I was in that. I am old, you know. I'm OG. You said it, you know. They were like the phones.
I say that.
Yeah. I'm older, but like the phones didn't record back then. And I was like, are they recording us? And I was like, I think they're recording us. Jake and I were training out there, and for sure they're recording us. But I fought in Shudo out there, and it was amazing time, man. Going out there, lost in translation, and bringing our own food, bringing our stove, knowing what we were doing. We're just traveling to Japan, and just traveling internationally and fighting. A lot of fighters don't even experience that now because back in the day, the mecca of MMA was Japan. Like Pride was the pinnacle of it all. UFC was still building up, And when I made it to Pride, I was like, oh, this is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life and the rest of my career.
I mean, that's where all the legends fought.
That's where a lot of the legends fought right there. And then the UFC ended up buying out Pride. But when they bought them out, I had a different contract with Strikeforce.
Yeah.
That allowed me to fight with Pride.
That was interesting.
Yeah, so then when they bought everyone, and a lot of people went to Pride, I went back to Strikeforce where my contract was out there. And which was a great experience. I feel like I lost a little bit because I think I was the best in the world. Like, I wanted to be the one to beat BJ Penn, even though I have a lot of respect for him. Frankie Edgar was the guy. But when Frankie Edgar was fighting Gray Maynard, I was, in all those fights, I was whooping everyone else's ass that was outside of the UFC. Mm-hmm. And by the time I made it to the UFC, Frankie just lost to Benson Henderson after he fought BJ, he fought Gray Maynard, and then his stories with Benson Henderson fought, and then Benson beat Frankie, and then when I went to the UFC, it was for the championship fight against Benson. So that was my journey to the UFC, and during that era, I felt like I was the best.
Man,
you were.
Yeah, you were. I mean, that's what I was saying.
Appreciate that.
I feel like you're being humble with your journey because before the UFC, I mean, you were debatably like Strikeforce GOAT.
Yeah,
you were up there, man. I mean, you became champion.
Yeah,
you had a couple title defenses. Like, how was that like?
It was great. It was great to look like, it was fun to like watch, and I like watching my young fighters because they do the same thing now, like watching yourself climb the rankings, you like go on the internet, and you're like, look, I'm like top 100 in the world, baby. Yeah. And then you're like, damn, I'm top 50. You're like,
that must be cool.
Yeah, I'm top 20, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm the number 145er in the world. Oh, I went to 55s. I'm like, oh damn, I'm number 3 pound for pound in the world all of a sudden. I'm like, this is dope. I'm like walking around, and feeling pretty good about myself, and those were the good times right there. Those are the good times. But Scott Coker was great because he allowed me to really take on those challenges outside the UFC, and he brought the best to me. And I got a chance to fight like Josh Thompson a bunch. I got a chance to fight Jorge Masvidal before a lot of people didn't. I already knew he was badass. But
he's always been like that.
Yeah, he's always been tough. It wasn't as known. And then this guy named Shinya Aoki, who was like debatably number 1, while him and BJ were 1 and 2 at that time. BJ was in the UFC, and this guy was in Japan, and he was breaking people's arms, tapping out Eddie Alvarez, Joaquin Hansen, just beating a lot of guys out there until I beat him. And at that moment, I was like, I know I'm the best right now. And that was like my moment on CBS right there. I got to fight Shinya out there, and I was like, I knew at that point I felt like I could beat anybody. Yeah, it's good times.
And then you go into the UFC.
Yeah.
And then your very first fight is a title fight.
Yep.
Isn't that like, how did you feel? Like, did you feel ready for that?
Yeah, this was my moment, right? Like, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. I was like, all right, here we go. You know, this is it. I was like, I beat the Dream Champ. I beat the Shudo Champ. I beat the Deep Champ. I was the Strikeforce Champ.
Strikeforce GOAT.
Yeah, I was like, I'm about to be I'm about to do this right now, you know? And, you know, it's just like, this is like my moment. That's what I've been working for my whole life. You know, this is the moment I get a fight for the championship, and in San Jose SAP Center. You know, I knew about that fight like before. Like, I was like, I trained so hard for it, you know, and I was ready for it, you know, and I went out there and I did my thing, and we had like, I mean, it was cool. I was like, I came out, it went crazy. It was our house. They were like, you know, the Giants were doing good at that time too, I believe. They're like, you know, let's go Gilbert, you know, it was cool, you know, and everyone was fired up. I whooped him. I beat him. Everyone got happy. Everyone went crazy. They read the scorecards: 48-47 Melendez, 48-47 Benson Henderson, 48-47 Henderson, dude. And like, you know, my heart broke at that moment, man. And it was a tough one. Like, it definitely was like, you know, like, yeah, I lost by one judge's round, you know, whatever. But like, you're still number 2 in the world, but you're kind of like tied for number 1 almost, but not, you know, you don't get the UFC strap. You don't get the acknowledgments. It was almost perfect, but not quite. And, like, till this day, like, that's the one. Sometimes I'll be in the shower and I'll just be like, oh, you know, like, and then my wife would be like, well, you all right? I was like, just, you know, thinking about that one. You know, like, that's the only, like, I've lost, you know, I've had my things, you know, whatever, but like, that's the one that got away from me. And like, also, like, I felt like I was pretty savvy on business. Like, I knew if I won that fight, like, my contract was going to expire, and I was going to ream him for all the money. You know what I mean? I was going to get him, you know, Right. It was, you know, but I didn't. But I did fight Diego afterwards, which was like, you know, fight of the year. And some, you know, some people, it still comes on my feed. They're like, people watch it for motivation.
Best UFC fight
exactly.
ever.
There's no way I'm not watching that fight and feeling like I gotta go to the gym right after or something like that.
Definitely
I
gets
love
me
that.
fired up.
Yeah, and that's like, you know, like, again, that's like, it's nice to be in the history books, and like, you know, you kind of get to become somewhat immortal because of that, and that just comes on the feed every year. It comes up, you know. I have a lot of dope fights, but that's the one, you know. And that ended up being my last fight on the contract, and kind of positioned me in a good place, you know, to renegotiate and all that right there. So that was kind of it right there. But yeah, man, like, you know, that UFC championship was my moment, man. That was my, you know, that was like my moment right there. And after that, you know, it was tough to summon the beast as much, you know.
So you think losing that fight with Benson had a huge impact on your psyche, or?
Well, I just was like, this is like, you kind of just work for that moment, you know. And I've, like, you know, like, a lot of people had the Conor McGregor treatment or the Brock Lesnar treatment. Like you don't understand what kind of wars I went through just to get there. You know what I mean? And like, fighting 5 rounds, piss and blood, dude, you know, like, taking beatings, you know, winning and stuff, but like on crutches and just going through these wars. And you're just like, it becomes like, I love to fight. I love it. It's just like, man, you get tired of that a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, the body gets tired of it. And it's just like, you kind of, not that I'm not scared to fight. You just kind of like, you know, you're just a little bit more hesitant, you know, like, I don't want to, you know, before I just like, I don't care. I'll take 5 punches just to walk through and give it to you, you know, and lay it all on the line there. But I mean, it just became more of like clocking into work, you know, getting my paycheck a little bit more. I still loved it, you know what I mean? And I was already like, you know, opening my gym, start doing commentating and doing all that.
This is around the time of the Benson fight.
Yeah, after the Benson fight, signing my new deal. Like, once I got that new deal with the UFC, they put me on the Ultimate Fighter show, and I got TV and all that stuff right there, you know. So, you know, I was kind of just, you know, a little bit, you know, just still a fighter, but just like, you know, just kind of planning for the future a little bit more, because it was not financial freedom, or it wasn't financial. I think it's sometimes now there's some fighters that are getting that financial freedom. It's got to that level. But
it's good for the sport.
It's great for the sport. And I made a lot more than a lot of people did even
Back
before
then.
me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I'm grateful for the money I made, because I did get hooked up at the time, you know. But still, as a businessman, I was like, I had to capitalize, open a gym, you know, do the commentating, start planning, you know, for the next. I was on the 4th quarter of my career. I was like starting to plan for the future, you know. So, you know.
Yeah, nah, you're a real goat. Cause that's what I'm trying to say. Like you're doing that all at the same time, but you think it all comes from that same mindset you had. Like I'm gonna go balls to the walls with this life shit.
I like my dad's a hard worker, dude. My dad's a hard worker, and he pushes me, and like I just like to work hard, and it's like it's fun to get after it.
Is he pretty Mexican, like cultured?
Hell yeah, he's a Tijuanero, man. He's from Tijuana out there, dude. And I'm a weak Mexican. My Spanish is poor and shit, dude. But like I fight like a Mexican,
Sure.
And I remember like crossing the border to go visit my family in Rosarito. That's where we were.
I've been there.
And we'd go watch since I was young. We'd go watch the Chavez fights because there's no pay-per-view over there, so it's free, right? So we'd all go drive over and we'd have a big old party at my grandpa's. We called it a ranch, but it wasn't a ranch. It was just a piece of property, and we'd all go watch the fights together. So since I was young, I'd sit and I'd watch Julio Cesar Chavez fight, and like all the young kids were playing outside, and I would just like when the fights came, I was sitting there and I was watching it, and I loved it. My dad did a little boxing when I was young, but yeah, my dad exposed that to me, and my dad's just a hard worker and never complains or bitches at all, and is just like a good man. So like I try not to, I try to be as good as he is. I'm working on it, but yeah, that's he whooped my ass, and he was I bring him up still to come help. I got him on the payroll. Yeah, come help out. And he starts yelling at everyone. He starts yelling at people. Hey, do this, do that. I was like,
sometimes you need that.
Yeah, you do. I'm like, I got senior here to crack the whip and stuff. That was my life right there.
Right.
That was my life right there. But yeah, that was kind of a little bit of my childhood. I remember a lot of that, a lot of watching. I watched, I think, every single one of Oscar De La Hoya's boxing fights. Chiquita Hernandez versus Carbajal. Those were some of the fights I saw. Madomero Paez and Hector Macho Camacho.
Yeah, you know that guy was different.
Yeah, man. Yeah. My dad had a friend named Larry, and he was like like an uncle to me, and he'd always like give me all the VHSs of boxing and WWE. So it was like it was ingrained in my head when I was young. I wanted to fight, since I was young. Like to this day, I love training. I love it all, and I love the sport, and just trying to hang out as long as I could in it, just trying to be in as long as I could,
Yeah, and you obviously got that Mexican spirit that you can't deny, man. We got that.
Yeah, that's it, man. It's good. It's in our blood, it's in our blood.
Yeah. Was he always like super supportive, or like what was his relationship like because I think for the average Mexican American here, like their parent wants them to go to college and have that like traditional career. So how did he take that in when you were like, Dad, what, I want to become an MMA fighter?
Yeah, it was tough. I was like, it was a lot of lies at first, right? I was like, it was a lot of lies at first. I was like in school, like wrestling, and and I just called him after, like, hey. I'm like, what? He's like, I just fought 2 guys tonight. And he's like, what? I was like, what did you do? And he's like, how'd you do? I was like, I won. He's like, stay in school. I was like, yes, sir. I'll be staying in school. He's like, didn't tell my mom, I think. And then then I fought again, and I was like, Dad, I won again. He's like, all right, how you doing in school? And then I finally like fought for the WC Championship, and he came to watch me. And I remember him just like nervous as hell, and like he like pounded, like just started drinking beer, and he's like, he drinks but not a lot, but he was like just drinking, like
he's Mexican.
Yeah, he's just drinking. He put down like 8 or 9 beers out of nerves, and like, but then like I don't know how I fought, and I looked and I was like, how did this guy get in the front row? He was like in the front row, and like he wasn't even supposed to be there yelling. He was like sober as heck, dude, and somehow made it in my corner, and he saw me in action, and he saw me win that WC Championship, and then went back to school, called him again. I was like, all right, I'm dropping out of school, even though I dropped out of school already, and he's like, all right, you can go for it, So it took some time, and it took some not sharing all the details, but, and it took a couple pep talks too, because I was starting to fight, maybe 2 fights. And I think Jake went to Vegas to go do a grappling tournament, and I went to Rosarito to go party, and he's like, I thought you want to be a fighter, and you should have went to Vegas and done that tournament. So he did those dad things to me a couple times to like make me feel it, but it was tough to tell them, tell them and all that, and for my mom to accept it and all that. But once they saw my commitment, my hard work, and I wasn't half-assing it, then they became really supportive, and next thing you know, there's people from Santa Ana and thousands driving up to come see me fight, so it was a cool period in time.
Yeah. That's amazing. You stick to yours, man. You know, because sometimes it's hard, man. It's hard because you want to please your parents, but you also want to follow your dreams. And it's like, yeah, they got me here, so you kind of feel like you owe them that a little bit, but maybe you can pay them off a different way later on, eventually.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a tough one, right? Like, and till this day, like, I want to make them proud, and
Right.
I want to do all that, you know, and but I think that's what they want, right? That's like, I found my passion. I found something that drives me. I found something that motivates me, something that, you know, I get to give back to the community with, and, you know, and I think that's what they're all about, and I think they're happy with that choice, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Damn, I should have flipped before.
Nah, no worries.
No, it's crazy. Me and the homie were here last night until like 12 o'clock just trying to make an outline, make sure we get your story right, because we really care about this. And I listened to a few other podcasts of yours, but
Sure.
I always want to make sure we have the best one with the guests, you know?
Heck yeah, man.
You mentioned a little bit about Skrap Pack. I mean, yeah, I love your guys. That's what I was telling him, bro. I was like, man, their slogan is jump in first, and then ask questions later. Because I think that's just a great phrase to like represent loyalty. And how important has loyalty been in your life?
It's huge, right? I mean, like we build bonds through backing each other up, and training, and being there for each other, and having our best interests in, you know. And I think that's how relationships
But I think,
are built.
but I think that's rare nowadays. Like everyone always wants that spotlight, or just like, you know.
Yeah. I feel like it's odd. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like it's odd that that's rare, because
I see.
Yeah, like that. I think that's odd in general, and then I think it's odd that it's rare. Like, people are like, "How do you guys have that?" And I'm like, I don't know how you can have any other way, you know, because there's nothing like having a bond with your boys, and having each other's back, and having your best interests, and having that loyalty, you know. And to your point, man, I think there's a lot of people that are like yearning for that. They're like, man,
Yeah.
I want that. I want that brotherhood. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just society or community, like just kind of like, you know, like do everything for yourself, or I don't know what it is, but it's been our foundation, right? Like having each other's back, like that's what family does, you know. Not everyone's perfect in that family, but like you got to support them, and you know they're good people, but we're all humans. We all make mistakes, and you support that community because they support you. You know what I mean? And like I'm not very like political. Like, you know, I don't pick blue. Like more than ever, I don't pick a team except mine. You know what I mean? That's like the team I pick now. It's just like my people in there. But yeah, man, I think that should just be it. You know, like that's like the foundation of a friendship, of a relationship, is loyalty. You know, like that's my boy, that's my homie, that's my teammate, that's my girl, that's everything. And I think loyalty is how you can build an army and build a community, because like if people see you loyal to your people, they're like, they know you're going to be loyal to them. You know, if they see you not be loyal to your people, then you got no one to build with, no one wants to roll with you, you know. So it's just the foundation of who I am, and who we are, and what we've built, you know. So you know, I think people try to read books on that stuff, like how to be loyal, how to be a good friend, and like, right. You know, I'm just like, man, you know, it's like, you know, but it's also authentic and genuine, because it feels good to get that back, you know. It feels good, like that loyalty back, that, you know, that like jumping in, you know, asking questions second, you know, it's like it feels good to have that, right? Like it's like it feels good to have all that, and people having your back and everything like that. So but yeah, that's what it's been. Yeah, and I see that in the common denominator when I look at like the OGs, you know, like I see that it's like loyalty really comes first, and like principles come first, and like all the stuff that got lost in like the social media world, you know. Yeah, that's why I like to hang around with like OGs, man. Like you know, our homie, he had mentioned Big Tone and GB. It's like, yeah, man, like at least what we can all learn from these guys is they can stand on what they stand on, and they're loyal and all that stuff, you know. So yeah, I consider this a gift for sure. Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure to be on here with you guys. You know?
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. One last thing before we dip off, because I think, like I said, we kind of covered. Is there anything you want to like ask as far as like his career wise?
Sure. I mean, we touched. I feel like I'd want to touch a little more on the Diego Sanchez fight.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
That was fight of the year, at least for a lot of outlets.
Yep.
Maybe could you talk about the difference in your career and the attention on you before that fight and after?
Yeah, you know, that was huge. You know, Diego was someone I looked up to too. I thought he was cool. And in fact, I even trained with him a little bit. You know, I went to San Diego to train with him. He was a 70-pounder at the time. and we had a pretty cool relationship. I helped him get ready. We both knew we were down, you know, like, hey, that guy's down. I'm down. And even like he was getting ready for BJ Penn and he dropped down to 155s and he's like, hey, can you come help me? I was like, not no more, bro. I'm coming to 55. You're 55s now. Like, you're going to become champ. I'm coming for you. You know, like I let him know, you know, and fast forward like years later, you know, we fought each other and I knew, like, I ran into Dana White in, I think Canada, like, you know, like we're walking around cause there was fights there. And he was like, I got your next fight. It's Diego Sanchez. I was like, all right, cool. And everyone knew, you know, two guys who only know how to fight forward. We're going to throw down. So, you know, just having that fight, you know, I've had a lot of good fights, but having that fight and having that war, you know, and just getting at it, two Mexicans throwing down and having Joe Rogan mainly coming afterwards and just say, man, this is the best fight I've ever seen him. And I know he says that a lot now, but that was the first time he said it.
No, yeah, he was raving over
that was so genuine.
Yeah, that was like the first time he really said that.
He does say it all the time.
And now he does.
That's where he got it from.
That's exactly where he got it from, you know. Yeah. And to have that impact and, you know, to you know, just, you know, it just kind of like completed my career, you know what I mean? Like getting that UFC win, getting that interview with Joe Rogan, and just like everyone looks at that fight. It did wonders for my career, like for my brand, for, you know, even for me now, I get revived with it, and it was big for my contract negotiations and everything. And it was just an amazing moment, man. I just remember feeling on point that day. And I used to spar him. So I knew, like, that's why it's like, you shouldn't be sparring people that, you know, I was good for me, but I was like, I knew exactly what he was going to do. And like, he can't help but walk forward. I was like, I knew he's going to walk right into it. Like I walked him down. I was like, he's going to walk right into it. He can't help it. And I for sure just see him like, here I come. I was like, perfect. Whack, you know, hit him a couple times. And I hit him hard, man. I hit him hard a few times. And I was like, you know, I thought for sure he would go down, but he was like a zombie in there too, man. It was such a good fight, man. I remember at the beginning too, I was like, I'm gonna kick him in the head right at the beginning. And I was like, didn't even kick. And he caught the kick, took my back. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose right now. And it worked out good. It was a great fight. And it was fun to see us like on magazine covers. It was fun to see us all over the news. And it was it was fun to just get respect from your peers and everything. And to this day, you know, it's great to just revisit it, you know, and I think someone, you get tired of that? I was like, hell no, I never get tired of that, watching that fight or watching it or seeing it come up or any of them. You know, one of my fights just came out on the internet too. It was like my first fight with Jerry and Pride. And I was like, oh man, I love going down memory lane and watching it and, you know, and seeing, you know, what a human's potential is sometimes, you know, but it was, you know, just a great time in history and something I get to look back on. I'm really proud of.
It's interesting hearing you say part of that anecdote was you running into Dana White in Canada. Like, it's kind of like mind blowing to be sitting down with somebody like yourself who's done so much, but also to know a lot of the people that I grew up watching, you know, all these characters. Like, could you touch on Dana White as a person? Did you have a lot of interaction with him?
Not a bunch of interaction with them, and I you know, but so much respect for him, you know, like the platform he's built and what he's provided for everyone. I think when you're young and you're the champ, you know, you're like, hey, I want this, I want that, you know, and these are the things I learned that I get back to the next gen. I'm like, hey, you know, actually, you know, these guys are doing a lot for us, you know, and I know at times you think like, hey, I deserve this, this, and this, and you have this certain like, you know, but I look back on it now, it's like, man, these guys, you know, they created a whole huge MMA ecosystem and a whole new culture, and what they've developed and what they've done is amazing, you know. But my conversations, like if I text them or hit them up, they, man, give me tickets, like anything, you know. But, you know, my interactions were business interactions, and those aren't pretty, you know what I mean? Those aren't pretty, you know. And if they are pretty, then you probably like got duped, you know what I mean? Anyone who's like, oh man, oh that was cool. I was like, oh man, you did not get the money you deserved. Yeah. But I learned that as well, and that's what I get to pass on to the next generation, because I fought not only in the cage, but I've like done multiple contracts and I've learned a lot of lessons. And, you know, for the next gen, I'm like, hey, this is how you need to do it. And this is the mindset you have to have. And this is the appreciation you need to show. And also, this is the time to play your cards. This is right now not the time to play your cards. Wait till you have pocket aces, pocket kings. Then you go all in and you really let them know, you know. So, but my interactions were like a little bit of business interactions. So you know, and I was also I wasn't like, Scott Coker was my promoter.
Mm-hmm.
He brought me up from scratch. Like, he's my promoter. Like, I wasn't Dana's guy. Like, they got us, you know, like he, like, you know, they bring up, you know, he brought up Anthony Pettis. He brought up guys from scratch, you know. Scott was my guy. Brought me up from scratch, you know. Tons of respect, just didn't have this, like, tight relationship with him or nothing as well. But a lot of respect, and he gives me a lot of respect. And now, as I'm older, I'm like, what he created and what he's done for the sport and done for myself and all the fighters is amazing, you know.
That's dope.
Yeah. The fact that you were just around it in the very beginning too, like the gecko, is like foundational, like a real pioneer.
Yeah, you're always going to be a pioneer of the sport.
Right.
You know, people are going to remember you forever.
Yeah, that feels amazing, right? And that's why I feel like, you know, it's my duty to just not sit around and just like talk about the history, which is fun, you know, but to give back to the next generation in a bunch of different ways. And by opening gyms all over the Bay, and got some homies in Oklahoma and Bakersfield, and, you know, show them like what martial arts can do for you, you know, be a competitor, open up a business, or just build you, you know, make you durable in the mind. You know, I always tell everyone to train, you know, and it's good for your soul. And it's really inspired me to, you know, commentate, do the analyst stuff, and just to be in the game, like, and selfishly, like, I love this shit, dude. I'm just trying to like be around it because it's so fun, and I'm so passionate about it, and I don't want to give it up. I don't have to like hang up the gloves, you know, maybe, but you know, maybe I got one more in there. But, you know, always one more in there, but you know, but I definitely know what I want to do, you know, for at least the next 20 years of my life, is be in this game, you know, promoting and building up fighters, and you know, and just enjoying it, you know, sitting there and enjoying it, you know.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
A prime Gilbert Melendez.
Yep.
Who would be a fun fight for you now?
You know, I was about to fight Kabib.
I read that on Wikipedia. Yeah,
I was about to fight Kabib.
Ooh, that would have been so
I was about to
raw.
fight Kabib before.
That was a while ago. It was UFC 170?
They like announced it. You know, we're talking about they announced it. They announced it. Gilbert versus Kabib. It was like on a poster, but I knew my contract was up. I was like, I was like, my contract's up. So I was going to fight him, and I actually wanted to, and I was feeling good. I was like it was just right after I fought Diego. I was like, I'll fight him. You know, I was feeling good. And I was like, man, that would have been, you know, like, that would have been interesting at that time. But I was still feeling really good at that time. I was like, you know, feeling like I can get it. And I just think, you know, they say this now. Oh man, this is the GOAT. Whoever's fighting now is like the GOAT, you know. But like, and like they give BJ a bad rap because they saw the end of his career. But I'm like, no, this guy's a GOAT because he was the champ, lost, came back, been the champ at 70. Like they've had like long careers, you know. And though Kabib is amazing, like, you know, he didn't fight all the great grapplers, and you know, he left, and the greats stick around, and
That's
you know what I mean? They stick around, and they may lose, but then they come back and they show it, you know, like, you know, Alexander Karelin, they talk about that wrestling, you know, Olympic gold medal, 4 years later, there's a next gen, you win Olympic gold medal, another Olympic gold medal, like, oh man, this guy's been around, you know? So, I thought that would have been fun at that time. And, you know, also, Jose Aldo, I thought would have been fun at a time as well too.
Oh, yeah.
And I always wanted to fight Frankie Edgar at that time when he was the champ. So those are fights that I think the fans missed out on, and I think that could have really proved that I was the best at that time, you know?
Yeah.
Did you get to? I think you got to fight Anthony Pettis, or no?
I did
Yeah.
fight Pettis, and that was the only guy ever to finish me. You know, I got guillotine choke right there, and man, you know, like, not, that was like kind of like credit to him. He beat me and all that, but I just think that was the time when I was just kind of like a little bit like just cashing in, you know. I felt like my biggest win was after I fought Diego. I signed a new contract. They put me on the Ultimate Fighter. I put stuff in my contract that like I was smart about. Like I could lose this many times and still not get cut. People are like, how did you get that in your contract? I was like, I had pocket aces, you know. That's why I got it at that time. And they're like, people like, you can't get that. I was like, I got it. It was in my contract, you know, and I was able to get that at that time. And
guaranteed money.
And
That's
but
important.
kind of became a problem though, because I was just like, I'm clocking in and just getting my paycheck, clocking in.
You had the silk sheets.
Yeah, the silk sheets a little, bro. I went, yeah, you know, I was, you know, that's what it was towards the end, you know. And But like my advice to fighters is like, hey, when you're feeling that way, like take a step back, you know. And I wish I just took a step back and like, cause like now I know I'm not fighting, but like oh like I like it's fun again, you know. And like when it becomes a job a little bit, you know, it's a little bit of a bummer, you know. It becomes a little bit like it just, you know, it's just not the same, you know. And I was just like clocking in because that's what I did and stuff. But it was a big win for me. Like not in the cage, but in the business world. I was like, oh yeah, this is a win right here. This is a win, and you know, and still grateful for it.
Absolutely. So, because you touched on it a little bit, do you think longevity equates to greatness? Like you have to be in the game for long periods of time to be great, or can you just be great for a certain 2 years, 3 years?
I mean, like I think like you got to prove that you're great, right? Like you can have great moments, you know, you can have great moments, but like a great is like who'd you beat? You beat the next great, you know what I mean? And like
John Jones and the generations of fighters.
Exactly. You know, like John is they're like, well, he almost lost to Dominic Reyes, or he almost. I was like, do you understand when people fight John Jones? That is the best version of themselves. You know what I mean? Like that. People don't talk about that part. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you fight John, you're like, wow, my diet was the best. I ran harder than ever. I sparred so hard on my life. I was the best. And yet, you know, John walks in and he whoops your ass or fights close, and he's like sustaining, you know, like, oh yeah, you know, like I trained hard, but not as hard as you did, and I still beat you. That's why he's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what makes you great, you know, because you can be great for a day. You know, you can, you know, like those guys they're great. They almost beat him, like, you know, Gustafsson. But the second time he fought John, like he got smoked. You know what I mean? It's hard to sustain that, you know, and that's why they say it's easy to get there, but it's hard to be there, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm like the greatest, but I know I had my moments where I was number one, you know, and I had my generation and I lost and I came back and I became top again. And, you know, you have people like, you know, they go 10-0, 11, then they lose and that's it. You know what I mean? So I think the greats, they get number one, they lose, they come back number one, they come back and they do it again. Like very few have done that. Yeah. Like have like that 4 generations of greatness of being on top. You know what I mean? And I think I had a time at 45s, 55s, came back, did it again. You know what I mean? And someone like BJ Jose Aldo has done it like over and over and over. Anderson Silva did it over and over and over. John Jones just emptied out the OGs, emptied out the next gen, the gen after that, and then he's doing it again right now. So that's what I think really shows that greatness, you know. And there's, you know, greatness and then great moments, I guess.
I'd say the same thing. Like, I think when you're talking about in terms of the GOAT of a sport, you got to take into account their longevity, their strength of schedule, and like the challenges that they've gone through. Because I had a conversation like this, you know, about the fighters with my friends, and they're like, a lot of people are high on the undefeated guys. But I like to bring up the fact, like, okay, what does it say about somebody's mentality when you get to the top? You're a champion, like GSP, lose just to come back and do it again. Like, I feel like that really speaks more on somebody's character, somebody's like mindset and their skill, you know? It's like once you lose, most people are, like you said, there's a lot of fighters that had their moment, and once it was over, but somebody special loses it and gets it back.
Absolutely. Or you gotta, you know, or you kind of go to that moment, right? Like you like how do you take your foot off the gas pedal? Unless you're like John, you're like, how much more can he do?
How much more
can he do? How much more of the dice can you roll? You know, but like to not roll the dice, or not to like go in as like, hey, you might lose this time. Yeah. Like, hey, you might lose this time, and man. And like, no, I won't. You know, hey, actually, I think that he might lose this time, and do that. So longevity and sustaining and seeing people like come back from it is, I think it's remarkable. You know what I mean? So I think that's what's huge. You know, it's a huge thing. And to see someone like hit it and get there and like and leave, you know, you're like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, you know, do you love it? You know, and like, I love it, you know, like I love train, love it. Like some people, like, you know, I don't know if they love it. Like, you know, like they're like, you know, like they got to do it for their country, or they're like, you know, like, you know, they're crying on the way out there. Like, you know, like, oh, like, you know, like, I don't, you know, it's crazy, you know, but like some of these guys are like I could tell John loves it. I loved it. You know, some guys, you know, you just enjoy fighting, you know, and I think sometimes like in America, like you have a choice. Like, you know, people are like, man, these Dagestanis, You know, they're forced to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they like even want to do it, but they have to do it. You know, they're badasses. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But I got a choice to go drink and kick it and go to the bar and hang out with my friends and do all that. Yet we choose this path, you know? So, you know, I think there's a lot of toughness on both sides.
Different perspectives.
Different perspectives. You know, I'm not saying one is right or wrong. I'm just saying there's different perspectives, like you said, and, you know, and for people to take this route when you don't have to, I think that shows some guts, you know?
Yeah. We were just talking about the how do you say it? The Afghanistan yesterday?
Dagestanis, yeah.
They're just building like in a lab, bro. And you're right, like the distractions here, and it's crazy because people, you know, say the American dream and all that, but man, I think it's painted a little bit different than what people expect. Because you're right, I mean, the opportunity is there, but then you got a million other things like taking you away from it as well. But you just gotta.
But that says a lot about like an American fighter, right? Because a Dagestani fighter, it's not just the wrestling, but it's their history of that land. You know, not just Dagestan, but that whole area, Georgia, Azerbaijan, like. Yeah. They got a fucked up history. Yeah. And they've had to fight all their life.
Of course.
So it's like when it comes to that thing, they know that's what they know. So maybe that's the reason why they're good. But a different perspective is how good are we, you know, as Americans who have all these vices that they have to deal with, all these other things going on that in Dagestan they don't. They're very religious. They're very disciplined. Over here it's not the same. But yeah, we're still producing top level fighters. So it's like, what does that say about us and our strengths and our resilience? Yeah,
I agree with that. You got to think there's some of those young men who like don't even want to do it, right? Like they're like, I want to go sing, you know, I want to go dance, I want to do something different, you know. But they're like, hey, this is your choice, you know what I mean? You go to war, you weight lift, this is what you're gonna do, you know. And I would say like maybe there's a percentage of them that are like, I love it, I want to do it, and maybe there's a percentage like this is my life, I have no choice to do it, you know. But they did a fantastic job, like. You know, Kabib's dad did an amazing job, and like I feel like as soon as the UFC came out, they're like, we're gonna take over. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like they started like immediately, like at a young age, like this is what we're gonna do, and to your point, man, they are an amazing culture, and it's amazing what they've accomplished. Yeah, you know, and but having a choice and I don't think they had a choice, you know. It's like this is what you're gonna do, you know. And you know, and I think that's pressure. And then when I talk about them, like, you know, they're like, oh my, I got my country on my back, and like, you know, that can like make you not want to fight, you know, it's that's tough, you know, to put that pressure, and you know, and then you got other people like, you know, that just love it, you know, and just like foam. I remember just loving it, just like I just wanted to test myself and, you know, just knock heads and go for it. I just be pounding my chest and just looking at someone like, yeah, well, you know, like I love the stare downs. You know, I like to be like, I'm ready.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
He's just a beast.
Yeah, I ain't like that.
Yeah. I ain't like that.
I remember it, man. I just remember I was like, I'm ready, dude. And
I
can feel it. You
across
know?
the cage. Oh no, he's crazy.
Yeah, there was that moment, man, where you just like, there was that time in my career where I just look at the guy and I just be like, I'm willing to take all the punishment, you know. I'm ready. Let's go get full throttle gas pedal. We'll see who breaks first, you know. And I feel like that was a lot of my strength. And a lot of fighters are more finessed or this or that, but like I was like, I'm gonna bring it, you know. I'm gonna bring it, and we're gonna see who breaks first. And that's what in Santa Ana, we're like, break them and take them, break them and take them. That was our motto: break them and take them. And that's like kind of our team: break them and take them. You know, like what I look for in athletes is endurance and courage. You know, you got courage and endurance, I can make a champ out of you. You know what I mean? And endurance is one of the hardest things to attain, but also the easiest in terms of scientifically. It's not that hard, but it's hard as hell to get up and do sprints. Like no one wants to do it. I'll just spar, I'll do this, but no one wants to go to the track and do the sprints. You know what I mean? And like that's like, you know, that's like big weapon. Like just having conditioning is one of the biggest weapons out there. Just like not getting tired. And that's why I liked fighting, because it's like you can break someone. You know, they might be a better athlete at first, but then you see it and you're like, oh, they're breaking, and then you just take them right there, break them and take them. That's it right there. You know, so you know those are key things. I think, you know, courage and endurance. That's what I look for.
I love that.
Yep.
Is that what you look at when you want to take on a fighter and take them under your wing? And because right now you have a few amateurs and professional, right? You have Hyder Emil.
Hyder Mill,
Yeah, shout
out to Hyder for sure, man. You know, he's a Bay Area guy too,
Yeah.
homegrown, and he's always had that courage and that endurance, you know, and that's good with our style. We like to walk guys down. We like to fight, you know. We don't like to outpoint someone. Like, that's not what I coach, and that's not what I teach. Not that you have to be like this forward fighter, you know. Even my guys that are a little bit more finesse, you can be finesse, but you gotta go for it at moments. You gotta let not just one go. You gotta let 3 punches go. You know, you gotta find your time to go for it a little bit. You know, if you have that ability and that speed, you know, if you don't have that speed, you gotta rely on your timing a little bit more and press forward and create those moments a little bit more. But yes, you know, that's what I look for in fighters, and I love to build their conditioning. Because I always say with preparation comes confidence. That's one of my quotes too. With preparation comes confidence. And when you're prepared and you did everything to get ready, including your conditioning, it's like a freedom. You know, you walk in there, I used to walk in there and be like, now it's in God's hands. You know, I'm going to go for it. I feel great. I could go out of my shield. I just know, like, the worst feeling is just gassing is the worst feeling in the world, man. Like, gassing out is just like the worst. And you see people do it when they gas out. It's the worst. And when you're out of shape in practice, like, all of a sudden you gas out and you're like, it's like everything's gone. Your skill, and nothing matters, dude, when you're gassed out, you know, because you could look amazing the first 3 minutes, but once you start gassing, like, you know, you become flat-footed, your hands are down, and you can be amazing for 3 minutes. You could be the best fighter in the world for those 3 minutes, but if you can't sustain that stance and that game, then it don't matter. It don't matter.
Yeah. Damn. So it sounds like you're breeding warriors over there.
Absolutely. That's the goal. You know, I'm trying to breed some pit bulls, some warriors, that mentality, you know, and this game it's about winning, but it's about entertaining, you know, and it's about, like, you know, a legacy, you know, all that stuff. And that's what I know how to build. And that's what I'm trying to build. And again, there's karate people out there, and that's their style. You know, they're elusive, you know, they're like, nah, don't get hit, you know, and they have a lot of good strengths that can cause problems for my style. And, but that's just, you know, that's their way, and not the right way, not the wrong way, just their way, you know, and my way is not the right or wrong way. It's just our way, you know, and, that's what I know how to do.
One last thing for me. You're on the talk about bringing fighters up. Have you ever thought about going to San Francisco and checking out the wrestling team? Because they got some low-key beasts out there. Bisping's son was on the wrestling team.
Sometimes I think about that. You know, it's just, you know, and I open the doors to wrestlers, and I've had some wrestlers come in and do that a little bit. I haven't started, like, recruiting yet. Like, you know, like, I'm not there yet. Okay. But I do hope there's a day where we're flying out to nationals and we can be like, come over here. Here's a place to stay. Here's a stipend. Here's a monthly. I want you to just train. You know what I mean? Not too much, because then they don't come train. You know what I mean? Just enough to keep them in there. But, like, that would be like the ultimate goal, right? To have the word is a refinery. What I was looking for earlier when we're talking about that's like, I want, like, my whole big game plan is have these gyms, right? And then, like, have fighters come out of them, and you know, and build champions and stuff. Build some legacy, you know. But it would be nice to. A lot of people have hit me up, Gil, I want to move out here and I want to train. And we know being in the Bay isn't easy, man. It's tough, you know. Sometimes I'm like, should I move somewhere where it's cheap and, like, you know, and build something out here? But nah, I love it out here.
Nah, we need you.
Yeah, I love it out here. You know,
we need you.
And all my guys are homegrown. Like, we have a lot of homegrown people. You know what I mean? And I think, like, other people have been able to recruit and do that. You know, and it, you know, and I'm not against it. And but I actually would love to. I should go to SF State. I will take your advice on that. I know the coach there too, and I wrestled there a little bit, and I do invite them. Come on over anytime, and you know, you know, and having that wrestling foundation is great for fighting. You guys see it now. You know, it's helping me out and
it's
everything.
The best one. I'd say
the mentality, everything that comes with it is the stuff I'm talking. Conditioning and courage, right? Like, that's like the champion wrestler, right? They got some courage and guts, and they're in fantastic shape. You know.
Yeah, I'd say I always say, even though I did Muay Thai, I say wrestling is the most effective martial art. It's elite. I mean, you look at the stats too. If you're a numbers guy, most of the champions are wrestlers.
Yep. That it's just like, it's just such an old sport, and then like the mentality of wrestlers, like
that's true. I didn't even think about that. I mean, you're part of a sport professionally excelling in a sport that's been around since ancient Greece.
And that's I think what gives them the advantage, right? Like jiu-jitsu was younger, and also the team, and just how it's been put out here, and Muay Thai and striking's been there, a long time as well. But just like that mentality of wrestling, like the Brands brothers did it first. You guys know who the Brands brothers are? The Brands, they were these brothers that were like they were just like conditioning was everything, and just mental toughness was everything, and I think that's just a big part of the wrestling culture, and to this day you see it out there, man. Did you guys watch the Nationals? Did you guys see the
I did not.
Yeah, there was the heavyweight.
Oh wait, Gabe?
Yeah, Gable Stevenson, lost his loss. He's an Olympic gold medal.
Lost?
He lost in the national. He was like this big high. He's gonna go to MMA and everything. And this guy came out and from Oklahoma and upsetted him. Gable Stevenson, not 1 point scored on him all year, and this guy upset him. And it was just like the beauty of the sport, like back when I was young, you couldn't even watch a full match of wrestling on ESPN. Now they had like a whole spectacle of it, and it's great to see it get its the recognition it deserves. But before, back in the day, you'd wrestle and like there was nothing to look forward to, right? You'd go play football and your aspirations would become an NFL player, or you go play basketball, you want to make millions. Wrestlers were wrestling and they just like would wrestle and you'd win, and then that was it. Like there was no future. Now there's MMA. Like there's if you want it, you got MMA, but there's no future. Like there's no millions and millions of dollars contracts waiting for you like that. So everyone knew if you wrestled, you were a savage. You were like kind of crazy to choose
for the
that
love
path.
of the game.
Strictly for the love of it, man. Strictly for the love of it, But again, like the form of payment, like of winning that medal or being a great wrestler is a different form of payment, And I walk with my head high because of it, Like I feel
That's
good
dope.
about it. Yeah, it's really helped me find my voice, and that's why I encourage people to train. It's like it gives you that confidence, it gives you that durability, and and it's not also about whooping ass. It's just like actually taking an ass whooping and coming back the next day, and I think that's what people need in our society now is, it's okay. It's learn to take an ass whooping. It's no biggie. Come back for more,
Damn. Yep. That's so real, man. Because I listen to Joey Diaz. Do you know Joey Diaz person?
I've met him here and there.
Okay.
Actually, I want to go see Joe Rogan at like Cobb's. And Joey
nice.
Diaz, like long Jake, like got his tickets there, and it
like
was
a
like
gold
Cobb's.
line.
Yeah, he was there, and Joey Diaz was opening up too, and he was hella hilarious, And I remember running into him and stuff. I don't know him personally, but said what's up here and then shook his hand.
I mean, I'm sure he's probably a fan of yours. He's a big UFC fan. But my whole point of being is I listen to a lot of his old shit. And he talks about how he used to go to jiu-jitsu just to get his ass beat, and then be able to come back and it's just a different feeling, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell people that, like people come in and they're like, oh man, I don't like the way I feel. I want to get tough, and and I'm like, there's people out there that like they're predators and they look for prey. They look for people who are scared and weak, and I say once you start training, you become more durable and you become more confident, and you won't even have to use it because like the bullies know. They're like, oh man,
they can smell it.
They can smell it. They could smell it. They know who the people are, and you're like, I get my ass kicked by Gilbert and Nate and the boys all the time. This ain't nothing. Bring it, and I think people could sense it. So there's a lot that martial arts gives you, and I think that's it. People think it's like, oh, I want to learn how to kick butt. It's like, no, it's like building durability and getting a butt kicking and realizing like it ain't that bad. It ain't that bad. And a lot of people surprise themselves once they start training. People surprise themselves, man. They get good. They're like, man, you don't know, people get real good who are unexpected,
Right.
Yeah, and I see the transformation, It's like real Fight Club stuff, They're like walking like this, and like 2 years later, they're just like this, And I'm like, yeah,
beautiful,
I
man.
love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. One last thing. Do you think you have one more in you? Or maybe not an MMA fight, but even like a boxing match?
Yeah, hell yeah, I have one more in me, as long as it's against another veteran, right?
Okay.
Like I have no intent of finding some young guy who wants to stick.
Dagestani?
Yeah. Exactly, dude. Yeah, exactly. Hell no, man. But if they ever wanted to run a
boxing match.
Yeah, box Diego again, go box, any of those
Jose
guys.
Aldo?
Aldo, I'd box Jose Aldo, I'd box Frankie Edgar. I'd actually box a lot of vets, I like to box, and it's a very hard sport, but in terms of getting prepared, like it's like the easiest on my body. You know, like that's
Right.
why, it's not good for the brain, whatever, all that stuff. But like getting slammed and getting kicked, shin and elbow, like that stuff takes a lot out of the body. But and I love to hit pads and spar light, and it's an amazing and tough sport, but it's a lot easier to prepare for, if that makes sense and stuff. But man, it'd be fun to do something like that. It'd be fun to do that. I would love to do that one more time, and maybe in the Bay Area here in front of the audience here. You know what I mean? It'd be
amazing.
Yeah,
have your own people there.
Yeah, I miss that. When I went to the UFC and started traveling more, I kind of missed that. I realized how good it was fighting SAP. It was my home, and man, I may fought there like 8-9 times. And it was fun having the home field advantage. It was really good times. Really
so you don't got a Jake Paul announcement coming up?
No, I don't. I would do it though. I'd do the Jake or Low. I would do any of those guys. I would take those guys there. Yeah.
You need like 10 more years. You're about to get a call.
Yeah. Exactly. Go lose some weight.
If Mike Tyson fought last year,
like 2 years ago,
whenever it was.
Yep.
Come on, you still have at least 20 years to.
Wasn't that amazing, man? Go watch him out there. I mean, it was kind of like anticlimactic, but just I was all about it, man.
Oh my!
I didn't believe it. Like it just felt so nostalgic.
Yeah, it was amazing. The whole thing. It was kind of quiet afterwards. Everyone was like, "What just happened? What happened? We just got." Did we get duped?
It was the two drunk uncles at the barbecue.
They got us, dude. They got us. Dude. I don't care. If they said rematch, I would watch it again, dude. I'd be like, all right, this time's different, man. This time's different. Dude.
Yo, Mike was wilding on that on the fight.
Yeah, he was. Man. I saw his nalgas out there.
Yeah, I'm like, he turned around. I'm like, what is happening?
And then he turned around and made T-shirts with this fucking ass cheeks on them. I don't know if y'all seen that. He's funny as hell.
He's awesome. So yeah, he trolled us for sure. He was doing it, dude. He did it. I was like, he did that on purpose, Mike, dude. There's no way he did that by accident.
His podcast is hilarious, dude. Like those moments where he's like clueless, it's like so funny to me. There's this one scene that always like pops in my head. They're talking about John Jones, and he's like, "Oh yeah, so it was the guy that fought him. I was supposed to fight John in Africa," and Mike Tyson like had misheard it, so he was like, "Wait. Who's John Africa?" And his face, like, it was like memed out. Like all the comments was like, John Africa had Mike Tyson scared. Who's John Africa?
I love seeing him punk. I like when he punks people, man. It's just like punks people sometimes,
Yeah.
When he picked up the man that just looks like a kid.
Oh yeah.
Has moolah. He's like playing with his nose. He's like 30 years old.
I was actually getting pissed.
I like when I saw him. He was watching old tape of him playing with tigers. Did you see that one?
I think so.
He's like watching himself. Like he was like wrestling. He had like pet white tigers. They were huge, and I was like, he was wrestling with them. He's like, what was I doing? He's like, I would never do that again. I was crazy. It was one of the funniest things ever because he was crazier back then. But he was watching. He's like, I would never do that again. Yeah, that guy was an animal.
Yeah.
Still is.
Yeah, who knows if anyone will ever live like Mike Tyson again?
No,
right?
There's only one Mike for sure. That's a hard legacy. There's no one's close to that right now.
Yeah, big shoes to fill.
Huge shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, man, we appreciate you wholeheartedly, man. Like honestly, when you hit me back, like I said, I didn't even believe it. It's like what, like a real legend wants to be able to come on the platform, and me and the homie are able to pick your brain. And bro, I learned so much. Like I'm gonna look back and just take notes and really take in what you said, man. Because you were talking about fighting, but I don't care what you do, you can apply it to your life. Absolutely. And that's really what this is about.
Well, my pleasure, man. It's been great being on here with you guys, and keep up the great work. I see what you guys are doing out here, and it's fun to be back on here, man. Or it's fun to be on here, and hopefully I'll be back again.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you want to come back, man, for sure. And then maybe even have some of your fighters you're putting out, man.
Absolutely,
that would be an honor.
Maybe we'll bring Hyder Emil out here next time, man. We'll
That'd
have
be
him
great.
out here. He's local. He's proud of Vallejo and stuff too. So I think he lived out there a little bit. I think he's a Marin now and stuff, and he's a Bay Area guy, and some of the up and comers. And hopefully you guys coming to my show May 17th.
Yeah, man, I'm there.
TechCU Arena, man. Come check us out.
Yeah, we're there.
Yeah. Just to piggyback off what Sammy had said, it's a very, very dope experience. You coming down, it was dope just hearing about your anecdotes and all these stories, but also the game that you putting out. Like it is so valuable to the community, to the people rising up in your world in that field, and it really is a pleasure, man.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much, man. Much respect to you guys. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Right on, guys.
Hell yeah.
Gilbert Melendez, man.
Come on.
Pride veteran.
Let's go.